Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl. Angles can be measured in both radians and degrees, and oftentimes it's helpful to be able to convert from one unit to another. Well, how do we do this? Well, we know that if we're measuring in degrees, one revolution is 360 degrees. So 360 degrees is a revolution. But if we're measuring in radians, 2 pi radians is one revolution. So that means that 360 degrees is the same thing as 2 pi radians. All right, well, we're looking for a conversion factor. How do I go from one to the other? Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take both sides and divide by 2 pi radians. When we do this, we get 360 degrees divided by 2 pi radians equals 1. Now, this fraction on the left-hand side can be reduced to 180 degrees divided by pi radians. And again, that equals 1. This is my conversion factor. It's going to help me go from radians to degrees. All right, so let's try a couple of problems. In the first example, I have an angle whose measure is 3 pi over 2. Notice there are no units written here. If there are no units written, the units are radians. So let's rewrite this as 3 pi over 2 radians. Now I'm going to multiply by 1. Okay, well, by my conversion factor, I know that 1 is exactly the same thing as 180 degrees divided by pi radians. So let's rewrite this again and make it 3 pi over 2 radians times my conversion factor, which is going to be 180 degrees over pi radians. Notice what happens when I do this. The units of radians cancel. Something else cancels as well. I have a pi in the numerator and in the denominator, so they will cancel out. And also 2 goes into 180. 2 goes into 180 90 times. So with all this cancellation, what I end up with is 3 times 90 degrees, which is 270 degrees. Okay, let's try it again for another angle. This time I have 7 pi over 6. Okay. Again, no units are written, so I know that the units are radians. So I'll write this as 7 pi over 6 radians. And I can always multiply that by 1. Nothing changes when I do that. So this will become 7 pi over 6 radians. Using my conversion factor, I can rewrite the 1 as 180 degrees over pi radians. When I do this, I have a lot of cancellation that will happen again. The radian units cancel. Again, that pi cancels. I have 1 in the numerator and the denominator. Also, 6 goes into 180 30 times. So what am I left with? 7 times 30 degrees, which is 210 degrees. And now I've gone from radians to degrees. All right, another time. This time I have a negative angle, but the process is the same. Negative 7 pi over 12 is still measured in radians. So I'm going to have negative 7 pi divided by 12 radians. And I'll multiply by 1. I can use my conversion factor, the same one that I've been using, to rewrite the 1 as 180 degrees divided by pi radians. Okay. All right, as happened with the other problems, my units of radians cancel. I have a pi in the numerator and the denominator that will cancel. And 12 goes into 180 15 times. So I can cancel out the 12 and it goes in there 15 times. Right, so what am I left with? Well, I've got a negative 7 times 15 degrees. This is going to be minus 105 degrees. Okay, one more time, but this problem's a little different. This time I have a negative angle, and notice there are no units written after it, so it is being measured in radians. Notice that there's no pi written here. Angles that are measured in radians do not have to have a pi associated with them. Okay? So we're going to do this just as we did before. So we've got negative 2.367, and that's in radians. And we're going to multiply by 1. My conversion factor is going to be 180 degrees divided by pi radians. Okay, so now this is usually where all the cancellation happens, and as always, the units cancel for me. Right? Notice this time there's no pi to cancel. That's okay. What I'm going to end up with then is negative 2.367 times 180 divided by pi, and I'm still working in degrees. Okay, to simplify this one further, I think I'm going to pull out my calculator because I want to multiply negative 2.367 times 180. And I get minus 426.06 divided by pi degrees. Right? Now, it's a little unusual to have an angle where you're dividing by pi and have that written in degrees. And since I'm working with decimals, I'm just going to go ahead and divide by pi as well. So I'll take negative 426.06 and divide it by pi. And I get approximately negative 135 and I'm going to round this to 0.62 degrees. I hope this was helpful. Thanks.